Perfect.
All right, everybody, what's going on? This your tour guide around the SWAC. C. Wells coming at you with another edition of SWACTalk. And it's Tuesday, so that means today is my HBCU Top 10. Man, this thing was crazy. Got a lot of movement in it this week, so we're gonna go over all my top 10 teams, my honorable mentions, why I put teams where I put them, and all of that. And also, it also cover the point spreads this every Tuesday. So got that gonna throw out there too. So gonna go ahead and get into this, man. Y'all hit them socials to check out the weekly schedule. Got our week 8 preview coming at you tomorrow. Got SWAC Smoke coming live Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and a week 8 recap coming on Sunday. Socials: Facebook is SWACTalk, Instagram SWACTalk, Twitter SWACTalk76. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel while you're here if you haven't done so already. We're over 1,100 subscribers, so definitely thank y'all for that. But make sure y'all hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Like the video, share it, comment, and if you would like, hit that join button to become a member. We got a members group chat, man. It get popping. Got a lot of stuff we share back and forth that don't really make the air. So if you want to, be a part of that, be a part of the show. Any of that, man, hit that join button. Got a couple tiers for you. You can pick which one you want. If you like to support the show without becoming a member, you can donate to the Cash App, $SWACTalk. All money goes back to the show, keeping all the lights on, so to speak, with the show, upgrading equipment and all of that. So if you like to be a part of that, just hit that subscribe, hit that Cash App, $SWACTalk, and it'd be much appreciated. One last housekeeping note, message from our sponsor, Park Lane Jewelry. It is October, and that's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. They are asking for your support. They have a hope necklace that can be purchased for only $20 with a minimum purchase, and 20% goes directly to breast cancer. The link is in the description below, so if you're interested, you can check that out. Got a lot of good stuff. Holidays coming up, just because. And all of that, you can check it out and get with them. So let's go ahead and get into this top 10, man. Week 8, heading into week 8, HBCU top 10. Number 1 remains the same. North Carolina Central. They were off this past week, so obviously they don't move. They are number 1 again, 5-1 record. They play Morgan State on Thursday night. So early game for them Thursday. Against Morgan State to open up MEAC play. That is a road game, so that's a kind of interesting situation. Morgan's been kind of up and down, but playing on the road on a Thursday, who knows? Central schedule, their last 5 games are all MEAC games. Obviously, they get South Carolina State at home next week. On another Thursday, so they have 2 Thursday games this week and next week. They have 2 Thursday games. They play Norfolk State on November 4th. November 11th is probably the biggest game for them, and that's at Howard. And Delaware State, they close out at home with Delaware State. So as you can see in MEAC play now, really opportunity to go ahead and win that thing again and go back to the Celebration Bowl. But the Eagles remain number 1 on my list. FAMU remains number 2. They're also 5-1. They had a bye week. They hit the road this week to take on Texas Southern. So big road game for them. Kind of get out there on the road, coming off of a bye week. The Rattlers are in position to win the East Division. They haven't officially won it yet. Obviously they've got a pretty strong hold on it, but they still have to play Alabama A&M, who has 2 losses, but could possibly be a spoiler. And then they still play Prairie View and Texas Southern and the Florida Classic. So um, they're not 100% out of the woods, but they win a couple more games. They're in good shape. They also play Lincoln, so that's a win. It's not a conference, but that's a win. Texas Southern is their game Saturday. They get Prairie View for homecoming next week. They go to Alabama A&M on the 4th, Lincoln on the 11th. They close out in Orlando at the Florida Classic with Bethune-Cookman. So the Rattlers are in good position to wrap up the East. Everybody behind them has 2 losses or more. So they win a couple more games, they'll clinch the division. But they have a pretty strong hold on it now. My number 3 team remains the same, and that's Tennessee State. They beat Norfolk State last week 24-7. 24-17 on Saturday. It was homecoming for the Tigers. So they move into a nice spot. They stay at number 3 in the poll. They play Southeast Missouri on Saturday. That's wait. No, what did I write that down? They play Lincoln on Saturday. Excuse me, I don't know why I wrote they play Southeast Missouri. They play Lincoln on Saturday, so that's a nice out of conference game for the Tigers. They get Lindenwood at home on the 28th. They go to Charleston Southern on the 30th. They play at Eastern Illinois, and then they close out with Tennessee State. I mean, Tennessee Tech. My reading is horrible today, but they have a favorable schedule to make a run at the FCS playoffs. They're playing really well. They're sitting in a nice spot in the conference right now. They're on one in conference, but still have some room to maneuver. 4-2 overall, so they're playing pretty well, and they remain in my 3 spot. Now this is where it becomes a jumbled mess, and honestly, you can take probably 4 through 8 and put them however you want. I went back and forth on all of these because there's no set team at that spot this week because there's a lot of movement because of losses. But my number 4 team is Alabama A&M. That's probably recency bias. They beat Grambling on Saturday 45-24. They're off this week, so they get ready for the Magic City Classic. They weren't ranked. They jumped into my poll with a big win against Grambling on the road for the Tigers homecoming. A&M is they're playing pretty decent football. They're up and down, really. They've capable of scoring a lot of points. I mean, they've scored 50 points against Tuskegee, 50 plus points against Lane, and they hit over 45 against Grambling, and 30 against JSU. So they've scored points in a lot of their games, 31 also against Pine Bluff. So they're one of the top teams in the league in scoring offense. They're very capable of scoring the ball. They ran the ball really well against Grambling. Xavier Langford ran the ball. It's almost 200 yards at the quarterback position. Donovan Eagling chipped in 96. So when that running game is working like that, it makes it a lot easier to get the ball to their weapons in the passing game. And they are going to be a team who, they're probably the final threat to FAMU. They have some tough games left. Magic City Classic next week. FAMU at home on the 4th. Then they close out at Bethune-Cookman and then against Valley. So, they have opportunity to pick up some wins. That FAMU game is probably going to be one of the bigger games of the weekend on November 4th, although there are a couple other big games that weekend. But that's an interesting game, and they still have, a little bit of intrigue there. The bye week helps them. They get to kind of regroup and get ready for Magic City Classic, which is against a team who has also jumped in my poll this week. So we'll talk about them coming up. But the Bulldogs are number 4. Alcorn was off this week. They moved up 1 spot. I debated jumping them, but I moved them up 1 spot, even though they were off. They moved from 6 to 5. They play at Pine Bluff, which is the Golden Lions homecoming this weekend. Alcorn's been finding their stride in the passing game this season. Last couple games, passing game has worked really, really well. Running game is not been there as great as you would like, but the ability to run the ball is there with the guys that they have. The defense is stingy. They take the ball away a lot. They're susceptible to some big plays, but they make the plays when they need to make them. They get those key turnovers and get the ball back to the offense. Um, they've been the cardiac Braves for the last 3 weeks. Their three conference games have all been decided by 7 points total. Two of those were wins, one was a loss. So they played three one possession games. All three came down to the end of the game. In one shape or form. Whether it's a late stop or a score to win the game, overtime score. They've played those close games and they've made it out of two of them. So you could expect this team being battle tested now. That they're due for an explosion, and Pine Bluff is probably going to be that game this week. They get Valley at home on the 28th. They get Southern at home on the 4th. They go to Texas Southern, and then they close out at Jackson State. So they have three out of 5 games are on the road. Two games are at home. They have a big division game at home. So they have an opportunity to make some things happen in the division. Can they do it? That all depends on how the offense continues to mesh and the run game continues to improve. And Aaron Allen plays solid ball again. Bama State is my number 6 team. They jumped into the poll by beating Jackson State 24-19. Their Hornets are off this week, also getting ready for the Magic City Classic against A&M Bulldogs. So the Alabama State team is still not looking great defensively, offensively, excuse me. They played a decent offensive game against Jackson State, not great. They were able to get points, scoring 24 points, which was their season high. They were able to finally make some things happen. But still not a lot of offensive input and production. The defense continues to be really, really good. I think this was the 1 week I could say that they didn't waste a good defensive effort because they were actually able to get wins. Like I said, they have a bye week this week. They close out with Alabama A&M in Birmingham. They get Grambling in Mobile on the 4th, and then they have Valley on the 11th on the road. They go to Prairie View on the 18th, and they close out in the Turkey Day Classic against Tuskegee on November 23rd. So 4 conference games left for the Hornets, and 3 of the 4 are very big. I mean, if you want to finish in the top 3 in the division, you need to win the bulk of these games. Your offense is gonna definitely have to continue to step up and help the defense out in all of these games because a couple of these games are against teams who can really score. So if you're trying to ask your defense to continue to hold teams down and you score 20, 21 points, you may find yourself on the wrong end. But the Hornets are 3-3 right now, sitting in a pretty good spot at number 6. Number 7 is Hampton. This is a team that I look for them. It's gonna be this is an interesting team because they had a really strong early portion of their schedule, and now they're moving into conference play. So they've dropped a couple games in a row. The last couple weeks, they lost to Monmouth 61-10 on Saturday on the road. So their schedule doesn't really get a lot easier. They get Delaware at home on Saturday. A&T is a game that they definitely need to win on the 28th. Maine, they play on the road on the 4th of November, and they close out against William and Mary at home and at Elon. So definitely some games that are going to be challenging. Elon's a team that's in the top portion of the conference. Delaware also is. William and Mary also is. Maine and A&T are teams who are below them in the standings. So if you want to get wins, you definitely need to win those couple games and see where you stand. So they're teetering in a tough spot. They dropped from 5 to 7 in my poll because of the loss that they took. So if they want to bounce back, they have to start now. You don't want to start to have those losses stack up and find yourself, out of the poll. Jackson State is number 8. They dropped from 4 with the loss to Bama State. They get Valley on the road on Saturday, and JSU is a team who, a lot of people didn't really know which way this team was going to go. Some people felt like this was a team who can bounce back and basically win the conference. Some people said this team might not win but 3 or 4 games. Some people said they'll finish somewhere in between there. And they've been a mixed bag this season. They've had some really good games, not necessarily great games, but they've had a couple tough losses, and the loss Saturday was definitely one of those. Um, one of those losses you can ill afford when you're trying to kind of keep yourself in the race. So that kind of stuff is out the window right now for them. So their best thing is to play out and win. Play the string out and win it. They got some pretty favorable games to close out the season. They go to Valley on Saturday. They get Pine Bluff on the road on the 28th. They get Texas Southern at home on the 4th, and they close out at home on 18th against Alcorn. So they can they can potentially win these last four games and finish 8-3. So all is not lost. I mean, yes, for the social media and the talking and everything, everybody's having fun, kicking JSU while they after a loss. But this team still can have a successful season because the four games they have in front of them are definitely games that they can win. But they do have to make some adjustments on both sides of the ball, and we'll find out how they do against Valley. Grambling dropped from 7 to 9. They lost to Alabama A&M on Saturday, 45-24. They're off this week. Grambling has lost two straight, so that's something that really is a kind of cause for concern. The run game, the running defense was very, very bad on Saturday. Um, kind of, kind of looking like they looked early in the early portions of the season. That's something that definitely kind of you have to kind of have an eye out on to see, if things can get back on track. The offense hasn't been as explosive as they have been in previous weeks. They scored 24 points in the last two games. So not necessarily putting the points up like they did before this losing streak, but the potential to get back on track is there. The offense is definitely capable of scoring points, whether it's through the air or on the ground. The defense can make those plays against the run game, but A&M was very successful in the second half, moving the ball on the ground. So that's something to keep an eye out on as the season moves forward. They close out their season on the 28th with Bethune-Cookman at home. They get Alabama State in Mobile on the 4th. On November 10th, which is a Friday, they go to Pine Bluff. And obviously, they close out their season on the 25th of November against Southern in the Bayou Classic. And that takes me to my number 10 team, which is Southern. I kept them at 10 because they beat Lincoln 45-18. I kept them at 10 because they had a huge stretch in the middle of the game where they just looked flat and lethargic. They did score 28 points to open up the game, 28-0 after one. And I think they kind of coasted. Lincoln played them tough. Southern made a few mistakes. 13 penalties in the game, multiple penalties that called back big plays, multiple penalties that extended drives. And that kind of stuff can hurt you in a conference game. So this team hasn't played their best game yet. Offensively, they show big playability. They don't show consistency. But because they beat Lincoln in the way they beat them, I didn't want to jump them over Grambling, even though Grambling lost. I think Grambling's looked a little bit better offensively, but it's kind of a give or take because Grambling's 3-4, Southern's 3-3. So if you're looking at it like that, then you could put Southern above them. But I wasn't too wild with the Lincoln win. I mean, it's a win. It's homecoming. You're trying to take care of business. But that wasn't the best game that I've seen from that. I haven't seen the good game from that team yet, so I kept them at 10. Their schedule wraps up with Bethune-Cookman on Saturday in Jacksonville. They get Texas Southern at home. They go to on the 28th. They go to Alcorn on November 4th. They get Prairie View at home on the 11th of November, and the 25th they go to New Orleans and play Grambling. So they have a schedule, at least when you look at home and away, it's pretty good for them. They get two division games at home, and then one division game basically hour and a half away from home, and Alcorn's like 2 hours away from home. But Alcorn's obviously a very, very hostile environment, and Southern doesn't win there often. So for Southern to really make the move they want to make, they have to really win all those games, and they have to win on the road at Alcorn, which is going to be very challenging. And beating a Texas Southern team that's beat you twice in the last 2 years, a Prairie View team who you don't know what you're gonna get from them game to game, and a Grambling team with a really great offense is gonna be tough for Southern, and you can't count out Bethune-Cookman because they've been playing solid defense, and they actually scored 31 points this week against Texas Southern. So no easy games there. If Southern's gonna move up, they gotta win, and right now they're gonna have to play a little bit better. My honorable mention teams, Prairie View with 3-4. They got shellacked by Houston Christian 30-0. Barely 100, I think like 110 yards of offense. They had 100 yards of penalties, so they almost had more penalty yards than offensive yards. They just couldn't do anything. So they're gonna have to regroup and get themselves right. Hampton dropped to 2-4. They lost to Harvard on Saturday by a big margin. But this still is a team that I still look at as a team that can be dangerous. Um, the non-conference slate wasn't really great for them. They played some close games, but they lost them. So it's like you can't keep a team sitting in a spot if they continue to lose. And a couple wins, they jump back in. I do think they're gonna be probably Central's biggest test in conference play. So the opportunity to make some noise in conference is still there. That door is not closed for them yet, but the non-conference slate wasn't the best for them. South Carolina State, they lost to Tennessee Tech on Saturday, and they dropped to 2-4. That was a game I thought they could win, but they basically got manhandled in that game. Lost it by I think 21. So they they can regroup and get themselves back on track in conference play. Like I said, it's a new slate for everybody in the MEAC. Conference play starts on Saturday, so everybody can make that race for Atlanta. And closing out my honorable mention is Texas Southern at 2-4. Big victory on the road against Bethune-Cookman. You needed a SWAC win. You couldn't go to 0-3. That would just be detrimental to the team. You needed that win. You had to battle for it, but sometimes sometimes you had to do that on the road. But they were able to escape with that win. This team is not an honorable mention, but I wanted to shout out Valley for getting the homecoming win in blowout fashion against Pine Bluff. So salute to the Delta Devils for picking up their win at home on homecoming and not being winless on the season. So they were able to make some things happen, and you got to salute them for that. And the Delta Devils finally got their monkey off their back. Looking at the point spreads for this week's games, Alcorn is favored by 9.5 at Pine Bluff. Alcorn's played a lot of close games. Pine Bluff's kind of been regressing as the season goes on. These last two games, I really, you play at Southern, you play at home against Southern and lose. Then you lose in a blowout fashion to Valley. That's a little cause for concern, especially coming off of a bye week. You played another quarterback, and now you're juggling quarterbacks going into week 8. That's a cause for concern, especially against an Alcorn defense that's going to make things hard for you. Alcorn can probably figure out which way they want to move the ball against Pine Bluff because they give up yards on the ground and in the air. But sometimes strange things happen when Alcorn plays Pine Bluff, so you don't really want to make it a foregone conclusion. But I think 9.5 is a solid margin for Alcorn. I think they're probably going to win it by 10 or more, so that's definitely a solid margin. Over under 46. Florida A&M is a 19. Oh wait, Florida A&M is a 19.5 point favorite over Texas Southern. Over under of 54. TSU offense, they can run the ball. The passing game is still trying to find its way. They got they got receivers that can make some things happen, but the passing game has been the running game has the ability to move the ball on the ground. Defensively, they haven't really stopped a lot of people. I mean, when you give up 31 points to Bethune-Cookman, you're obviously giving up a lot of points in all your games. I think you're giving up 30 plus in every game, if I'm not mistaken. So you're playing against a FAMU team with a very good defense. FAMU's defense is probably going to dictate this game offensively. Can FAMU avoid those lows that they've been having in conference play? And play a clean game. If they do, then I think that margin is probably pretty close to what I would think. I think 38-10 type of game. 31-10. Those are FAMU type of games these last few weeks. So I think that's a respectable margin. It's nothing outlandish. But if Texas Southern can find a way to move the ball, which is not impossible against their defense, then they could make this a little bit more interesting. Jackson State is favored by 21.5 against Valley. Like I said, Valley played well against Pine Bluff and won that game at home. Jackson State coming off of a loss, still a different animal than Pine Bluff. If JSU makes some adjustments to some of the things they've been doing and they find rhythm, then they'll win this game comfortably. Valley's gonna put up a fight, but I think that's not a bad spread over under 51. So nothing crazy about that. I mean, Valley hasn't fully shown that they shouldn't be a big underdog against teams that are ahead of them. So I don't have a real issue with that. Our last conference game is Southern favored by 7.5 against Bethune-Cookman, over under 47. Southern offensively, that's the issue in this game because I think Southern's defense should do pretty well in this game. Bethune-Cookman's defense has been playing well. They got Luke Sprague, the quarterback. He played this week, so that should boost the offense a little bit more. Can Southern's offense be consistent? That remains to be seen. This is a team that's scored against conference play, has scored 27 points as their high. So they haven't really been able to cash in the red zone. They haven't been able to avoid those bad turnovers and bad penalties. The consistency that you need for an offense to be potent, they haven't shown it. But the ability is there. The talent is there. If Southern's defense sets them up with good opportunities, then Southern may be able to, take advantage of that and score some points. If Southern can score points, then I think that 7.5 is easy money if they can score, and that's no foregone conclusion against Bethune-Cookman. There's no foregone conclusion with Southern right now. But if the defense is on point and the offense is able to hit some plays and stay out of their own way, then I think that 7.5 is fine. And it's a neutral field, so it's not at Bethune-Cookman, so you kind of don't have to worry about that. So I don't have a problem with any of these spreads this week. Not like last week. I don't have nothing outrageous. One other game I wanted to point out: North Carolina Central's favored by 11.5 over Morgan State. Morgan solid on defense, iffy on offense. So I don't have an issue with that. That's a Thursday game. I said only one other game I wanted to cover, but I'm gonna cover a couple more. Lincoln is a 32.5 point underdog to Tennessee State. I think the Tigers can eclipse that, especially if they don't fall asleep at the wheel. They'll be able to take care of Lincoln. Lincoln does have a great running back. They have a really solid running back. The receivers and quarterback are okay. They use a really quick passing game to kind of keep you at bay. So they may be able to move the ball a bit, but I think Tennessee State should take care of business in that game. Also, I wanted to point out Norfolk State is 9 point underdog to Howard. I think the Bison can get themselves back on track in that game. And I wanted to point out the Hampton game. Where is that game? Okay, Hampton's a 16 point underdog to Delaware. So those games impact the polls. So that's why I wanted to go over those. But this week, point spreads are pretty good. I don't have a problem with none of them. So we'll see, how things shape up. But make sure you join us tomorrow for our Week 8 recap. Week 8 preview. We're gonna preview all the games on Week 8. I guess if I had to, my game of the week. I guess it'll be. I don't know. I might go with FAMU and Texas Southern just because I think that I'm not sure about any of the other games this week. So I'll probably go with FAMU and Texas Southern as my game of the week. Everything else is not bad, but it's not really intriguing to me. So I'm going to pick FAMU against Texas Southern as my game of the week. The preview will be coming at you Wednesday. Recap coming Sunday after all the action, and SWAC Smoke coming Thursday live 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Make sure you follow all the socials, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.